Evolve Beyond Borders is proud to introduce Anil Vijayan, partner at Everest Group. Anil is an industry-renowned speaker and author with over 15 years of experience. He leads Everest Group's service optimization technologies and human resource outsourcing membership and custom decision support programs. Let's welcome Anil as he shares his insights on enhancing global payroll through technology.
Hello, everyone. I'm Anil Vijayan, partner at Everest Group. I lead our research programs across a few areas within Everest Group, one of which is HR and talent, and that includes payroll, multi-process human resources, HR tech, and so on. Glad to be here and welcome to the session. Okay, so today I'll be speaking about multi-country payroll or global payroll and the role of technology in adding value to the construct of global payroll. So we'll begin by taking a look at the various factors affecting HR and payroll and what that means for global payroll. We'll then delve into the use of technology for adding value to multi-country payroll. And finally, we'll look at some of the considerations when embarking on consolidation. Okay, so now all of us have heard about the Great Resignation and the lopsided talent market that we have today. And we may tend to think of it as a point-in-time phenomenon. And there are components of it which are certainly point-in-time. But the reality is the skill shortage that we are witnessing is enduring. Part of it is due to demographic shifts, especially in more developed economies. You have an aging workforce. There's not enough people joining the workforce, thereby causing a shortage. Part of it is in some ways linked to the other point mentioned here, the whole digital disruption and how organizations are wholeheartedly embracing it. So ultimately, this means that the skills required are fast changing. And as a result, we are simply not able to keep up pace with the training needs of people and, ensuring that people are trained up in time. Hence, while the skill gap it was certainly accentuated by the pandemic, it will be a feature in our lives for some time to come. And consequently, attracting and retaining skill talent is key. And that is why employee experience will continue to take the spotlight. Now, one of the other ways that enterprises are trying to fill that gap is also through contingent workforce. Therefore, payroll needs to start thinking of employees not just in terms of permanent roles, but also the total talent, right, which includes contingent. Now, keep in mind that this change in talent being served goes beyond contingent and permanent to include other non-traditional workers such as remote workers, for instance. So, in essence, payroll will have to deal with an increasingly diverse workforce that includes different generations, different types of workers, and also different work environments. And employee experience is going to be critical in all of these situations. Finally, you have changing regulations around data, around payroll laws, around privacy and security, and so on. And these are also bringing in increased complexity and the risk. Okay, so as I mentioned, employee experience will continue to be key. But to understand how that really impacts payroll, we need to double click into the future of work. Since employee experience, of course, is intricately linked to the nature of work. Now, there are three dimensions. There are three dimensions along which work will evolve. The first one is, where work is done. Already we are seeing that organizations are increasingly more global when it comes to talent. But now we have added in the dimension of hybrid working environments, also making it much more distributed. So no longer will work be really restricted to very sanitized, controlled office-like environments, but will also include a significant chunk of remote workers at any point in time. The second part is who will do the work. So the employee base will be more diverse, not just in a traditional demographic sense, but also by generations and by worker types that includes permanent roles, contingent workers, and also, given the rapid adoption of digital, we'll also have digital workers. In fact, we are already starting to see some of these where certain roles are now being addressed through packaged digital technologies, including the likes of RPA, IDP, conversational AI, etc. And those are being packaged as roles which can potentially either aid or even in some cases to a certain extent substitute the work done by human workers. And finally, the last component is how will the work be done, right? So to enable the employee base to cope up with changes, reskilling and upskilling will become frequent. Organizations will definitely have to become more agile to sustain as the business environments change rapidly and business model disruptions happen at a much more accelerated pace than we have been used to, let's say, a decade or so ago. So in a sense, payroll will be dealing with a global, diverse, distributed workforce and must be agile enough to change rapidly. But of course, that's not all. The expectation from payroll has now gone beyond simply having pay slips delivered on time and accurately. In fact, today we can see that payroll is expanding beyond its core, and it's leading to an ecosystem play. So payroll data is still at the core there, but we are seeing additional solutions being provided around it that help enhance the employee experience. So, for instance, we see earned wage access solutions being offered to employees. Earned wage access or EWA essentially enables the employees to draw a salary regardless of the number of days worked, whether it be 1 day or 15 days or 30. Then we have financial wellness solutions starting to be offered as well. And these help employees with the aspects such as budgeting, planning, investments, savings, even in some cases managing debt and so on. So if we extend what we are seeing now into the future, we can predict that payroll will evolve to include an ecosystem of apps that often will or that will rely on payroll data, but will offer additional benefits to employees, thereby increasing the overall experience. Okay, now that we know where work is headed and what payroll needs to cater to from that perspective, let's look at the first step to get there. As I mentioned, we already have global workforces today. And as a result, multi-country payroll or global payroll that involves consolidating payroll across different countries over the globe, that's one of the first steps that organizations need to take to head towards a uniform employee experience. And this is particularly for payroll, but in some cases it may apply across broader HR as well. So consolidating payroll across the world under a single solution offer multiple benefits. Standardization is the obvious one. With global payroll, you can enable consistent output for employees regardless of where they are working and what kind of work environment they deal with. This also holds true for the processes that run in order to make payroll happen. Now, of course, there will still be local variation, but largely standardized processes also help with better accuracy and improved compliance across the payroll landscape. Cost savings are another byproduct of the standardization and centralization of payroll. In many cases, you can use consolidated delivery centers to process payroll, in addition to the automation delivered through a global payroll system. And naturally, this results in reduced cost to serve and therefore, better cost savings and improved efficiency as well. Um, right. Another key benefit here is the visibility and control. Multi-country payroll enables you to access payroll data in a more structured fashion, as opposed to when you have different payroll systems running with disparate data silos. Now, the access to data means that it can be surfaced for meaningful insights across the spectrum of stakeholders. For instance, you can get global visibility into any payroll leakage. Executive audiences can understand spend patterns and use it for talent planning and so on and so forth. The first step to get into a future-ready payroll is often simply consolidating it into a global payroll construct. But to truly unlock potential, it is necessary to see how you can employ technology levers to provide added benefits. And that's what I'll be talking about in this next section. Okay. Now, technology, of course, has progressed rapidly in the past decade or so, and payroll has been affected considerably as well. Now, as you think through transforming payroll into a global construct, it is essential to look at the technology levers you can employ to ensure that it remains future ready. Of course, there are several technology elements that we can consider, and in many ways, these tend to increase day by day. I'm sure there's definitely a new technology every day which looks interesting, but for the purposes of this session, I'm going to look at some of the key ones, which are the payroll platform, analytics, and the tech ecosystem. So if you look at the platform, we can see that many of the next generation platforms, they offer enhanced capabilities. Now, combined HCM, HR, and payroll systems, obviously they offer a variety of benefits, right from consistent user interfaces and user experience to better use of data, etc. But for global payroll, it may not always be possible to have such a one-stop solution. Hence, what we should be looking for is tightly integrated systems. Many payroll platforms today, in fact, allow you to access the functionality from within the HCM system and deliver the payslip within that interface as well. Now, of course, this needs to go beyond HCM from an integration perspective, since better integration with your benefit system, time and attendance, and other systems, they also reduce the manual touch points that you have within payroll and improve speed and accuracy in delivering payroll. Okay, so the other component which is becoming increasingly important is the use of automation. This can be within the system or it can be outside as well. Now, automation is used not just from a cost perspective, but also for achieving other objectives. So, for instance, I mentioned EWA. There are multiple ways in which EWA can be enabled, but it often involves some form of off-cycle pay runs. And to do a off-cycle pay run in a cost-effective manner, likely you'll need automation to get you to some form of near touchless pay run. So as you can see, automation is not just a cost play, but it can also be used to enable other solutions. It can be used to improve employee experience and so on. If we really double click into automation, it can take two forms. One, you have your rules-based automation through tools such as robotic process automation or robotic desktop automation. Now, these deal with more transactional processes. And then you have artificial intelligence-based automation. These tend to deal with more judgment-oriented processes. On the rules-based side of things, RPA can be deployed in multiple use cases. So, for instance, it can be used in pre and post payroll validations. It can be used for reconciliation exercises, or even for data transfer when API-based integrations are maybe not feasible, particularly when you're dealing with say legacy systems. On the AI front, a couple of use cases that we see commonly today are the use of virtual agents, and these have conversational AI embedded within them. And the other one is anomaly detection. So, virtual agents, of course, serve to provide those automated responses to employees, helping them deal with payroll queries 24/7. Anomaly detection is an interesting use case which can be deployed to point out if there are pay slips or payments that are unusual or appear to be outliers based on what has been observed in the past. So, to reiterate, payroll platforms have certainly come a long way. And as you go down the path of payroll consolidation, it is imperative to look at what features and functionality the platform can offer beyond the traditional use as a middleware. So the next technology lever is analytics. Again, keep in mind that this can be embedded in the platform, but as I will talk through, if you want to go further, you may want to make for additional investment. Now, we are all familiar with the basic reports and dashboarding that can come out of a typical global payroll system. But if we were to stretch the boundaries, we need to look at predictive and then further on prescriptive analytics. Predictive analytics relies on models to help us predict certain metrics or data points. These can be AI enabled as well. So, for instance, using past data, we can predict the impact of overtime on payroll, let's say during a particular season or a particular year, and so on. Now, prescriptive tends to go beyond that, not just in terms of predicting, but also helps with proposing solutions for that particular problem. Reality is, of course, today we are still very much I would say maybe at the beginning of predictive analytics and increasing adoption of that. But at some point in time, we may want to enable prescriptive as well. The other kind of analytics which we have here is benchmarking analytics. Now, benchmarking data can be surfaced by vendors around multiple metrics. So, for instance, you can have operational SLAs, including how long, let's say it takes to, do a pay run, right? So, this may help enterprises compare against industry standards and then take action to fix processes if they are falling short of standards. So, for instance, let's say there's an enterprise in retail, and again, you're comparing the pay run time to other enterprises within retail within your same geography. Then it's a good, let's say, apples to apples comparison in terms of what you should be aiming for, especially if you're falling short, and then taking steps to improve that. So similarly, we can have benchmarks around, say, compensation for certain roles, metrics and benchmarks around diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. So here you can have, again, measurements around pay gap, measurements around pay ratios, etc., which contributes to understanding the DE&I situation within the organization, and often helps as a starting point to initiatives which can then help correct some of, let's say, possible issues which were discovered. So, but beyond these, if you look at the broader HR ecosystem, I think if there is an ability to bring together the data, all of the employee data from different sources, so including your HCM system, benefits, time and attendance, payroll, even let's say performance management, that is a hugely powerful tool for deriving all kinds of analytics regarding your employee base. And across organizations, one of the most valuable assets tends to be the employee base, and being able to plan for that asset using data and insights as opposed to intuition, that will be invaluable. Now, as to how to enable it, I'm sure all of us have heard about data warehouses and data lakes and so on. But these tend to be more investment heavy, and you need to dedicate a significant portion of resources and time for this. But we are starting to see technological advances which are making these easier to do. So, for example, you have something called the data fabric, which enables you to work on consolidated virtualized data without needing the level of investment required for data warehouses. So yes, I would say that's another thing to pay attention to. And as the technologies there advance, certainly it can unleash a whole lot of benefits, on multiple fronts. Right. So finally, let's look at what place payroll technology and data will have in the HR tech stack. Now, as I mentioned, the need for tighter integration for the reasons of speed, efficiency, and better use of data means that payroll is likely to interact with systems such as expense management, time and attendance, and HCM more deeply. But on the other hand, you can see the ecosystem of apps developing as well. So this will include EWA, financial wellness, global payments, and there could be many more coming out here. So in essence, payroll is finding itself positioned in between these systems, and the reality is the number of systems or applications is only set to expand further. So hence, while building a global payroll solution, it is necessary to keep in mind the demands from the expanding ecosystem of applications that payroll will need to interact with in order to provide obviously a variety of benefits to not just the enterprise but also the employees. All right, so let's take a look at the key considerations to keep in mind as one adopts global payroll with an eye on the future. And I think here it is helpful to just take a step back and consider what the end objectives are for global payroll. So the next generation payroll, through the modalities I mentioned, will serve to cater to the expectations from payroll beyond the traditional three C's of cost, control, and compliance. So again, don't get me wrong here, those are still going to be critical, but they will just be a hygiene expectation. Now, beyond that, you will have resilience as an expectation, which all of us are familiar with, especially post the pandemic. Superior stakeholder experience, and stakeholder includes, I would say, largely two groups. One is the actual payroll users or payroll function users of the solution. So these will be folks who are working within payroll, and they tend to use these solutions on a more frequent basis. So again, experience on that front is also important, and there are a lot of things which can be done there to improve experience there, including user interfaces, user experience, more automation, and so on. But I think the larger chunk of population there is actually the employees, and this tends to get more of a spotlight simply because there's more volume there, or there is more numerosity there, at least in terms of the number of people being touched, right? And keep in mind that the employee base will also tend to become more diverse along various dimensions, as I have mentioned before. The next one is in terms of efficiencies. The expectation would be to go beyond what we have today into the next generation of efficiencies. And these will be enabled through process and technology, particularly using automation and AI-based solutions. Naturally, these will also lead to cost savings beyond what payroll has traditionally achieved through consolidation. Now, in today's particular business environment, I think delivering cost savings combined with employee experience, that would be the winning formula for sure. And finally, an active contribution to strategic business initiatives and outcomes. So, for instance, let's say in talent planning, identifying and developing the right kind of skill sets for the employee base, and even in elements of employer branding, let's say through initiatives such as earned wage access or EWA. Now, we have looked at the objectives. So, what should we really be on the lookout for as we set about this journey to global payroll? So, the first thing is to include all the relevant stakeholders upfront. Now, this can be finance, it can be HR, and other operations oriented support functions. But it should also include IT given the increasing technology play. So ultimately, this will also help with change management further downstream, which, as all of us know, is critical to any sort of transformation. Second, I think understand the current state of operations and the existing tech landscape. Also, try and understand or try to arrive at the end operating model that you're shooting for. Because based on these and your risk appetite and other environmental factors, you may want to adjust your approach. So, for instance, you can go for a whole rip and replace approach, or you can go for incremental changes. Similarly, when looking at global payroll, you can opt for a big bang for all countries or a phased approach, or maybe something in between. So the first step there is really understanding where you are and where you want to head to, with what risk appetite and using what capabilities. Of course, upfront cost and commercial models also come into the picture. Typically, in payroll constructs, we do have a PPM kind of model employed, but you need to also take into account what the initial upfront cost is, either for design, if we are addressing that part of the equation, potentially for implementation and other components of it. So having a good understanding of the true cost will definitely prevent any heartburn later. And then finally, choose your partners carefully. You may choose to do, let's say, consolidation of payroll in-house or outsource. But regardless of the model you end up with, especially if you're shooting for a more future-ready payroll, you'll likely have partners. It's just simply becoming increasingly difficult to do everything in-house for an enterprise because things are changing so fast. So you likely end up with partners, and on that front, do your due diligence and select someone or select a partner or a group of partners who can truly help you on the journey to meet your end objectives. Okay, so to conclude, consolidating payroll is definitely the first step in transforming payroll. But in today's world, you need to go beyond that and use next generation technologies to make sure that it is future ready. Now, it may seem overwhelming in some ways, but if you have a well thought through strategy and a plan, the benefits will definitely far outweigh the investments. So with that, I come to the end of my session. Thank you, everyone.